Hi, my name is Heather Smith and you're listening to Cloud Stories, a podcast exploring the accounting and business apps community. Today, I bring to you a panel discussion exploring atomic habits. This discussion was recorded at Sydney Accountex 2023 at the GoCardless Buzz Labs. So many thanks to GoCardless for organising this recording and facilitating the panel discussion. I'd like to encourage you to sign up to my newsletter, which you can find at heathersmithau.com. And to subscribe to the Cloud Stories podcast so you can keep abreast of what is happening in the accounting apps world. Today, we are going to have some fun. I have assembled an amazing panel, some of the kindest and generous people in the world, in the industry, and people who are obsessed with habits. We're going to talk, we're going to explore, atomic habits. Who here has read the book Atomic Habits? Yes. So this is edutainment. We're happy for you to heckle us. We're happy for you to jump in and share your insights, okay? We want to learn together. So I have an amazing panel here today, and I would like to throw to each of them to share who they are, where you're from, and what brings you to this conversation today of exploring atomic habits.
Thanks, Heather. Thanks, everyone, for joining. So I'm Amar Latif. I'm the co-founder of MadWealth. We run a multidisciplinary accounting firm, bookkeeping, payroll, BAS, advisory, and tax, with my amazing business partner, Carla Hourigan, as well. Proud father of two boys, love sports, and I have quite a addictive personality. So habits have been really important for me because when I implement a new habit, I tend to stick to it quite religiously. So it's actually, after reading that book, it's transformed my life, and that's what's interested me.
I'm Michele, Rainforest Bookkeeping. I'm a BAS agent, sole practitioner, a little bit OCD for those of you that know me, and I can attest that he is totally addictive. This book was great because it depicted exactly what I already did and how I can expand on that. So absolutely love it, and I'm with some of my favorite people.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dan. I'm a co-host of the Two Drunk Accountants podcast. I'm also a co-owner of Cats Accountants. I'm on this panel because Heather asked me. But also, I have terrible habits most of the time, and I strive constantly to improve them. And I'm always inspired by all of the people up here, and so I just want to learn from them, really, and try and kick my chocky habit would be great.
Didn't you do a podcast on atomic habits as a book nugget? Or was that not you?
No, that was me. It was one of my steps in the journey to be better. But yeah, no, Tim and I did a whole episode where we recapped this. So I'm excited to see what you all learned from it as well.
Absolutely. So to clarify, in case I missed it there, Atomic Habits is a book by James Clear. It is a New York Times bestseller. And for the person who does some really good social media sharing today, we will give you a Audible voucher to buy your own copy of the the book. So only one. So go for it, everyone.
Yes, he does. He narrates it.
Yes. Oh, okay. So James actually reads it in the Audible book. So great prize to win. So we're here to talk about James's book. And we've asked nearly 60% of the audience have absorbed the books. We generally know that positive habits are a good thing. How did the book's explanation make you want to take habits seriously?
So for me, I think it introduced a practical way to actually implement good habits. So it's really easy to go out and say, these are bad habits, these are good habits. But it's not so easy to switch from a bad habit to a good habit. So one of the things, as an example, in the book, he talks about habit stacking. which I found really, really easy to implement for myself. So what habit stacking is, if there's a habit that you love doing, you associate it with a habit that you want to get better at. So when this happens, I will do this. So as an example, before I drink my first coffee for the day, I will do 10 minutes of meditation. So that before you can drink that first coffee, you're implementing the habit you want to build. For me, I found that I was living quite a sedentary lifestyle. I was sitting down in the office all day. I go home, sit down with the family. When I read, I'm sitting down and reading. So one of my biggest passions is actually reading. I love to read books. So that was the habit that I would always do every single day, and I would read maybe 2 hours to 3 hours a day. So I created a rule straight after reading that book as well, about two years ago, and that was I'm not allowed to read unless I walk at the same time.
So he walks more than 100,000 steps a week, and he reads, while not an audiobook, an actual book with post-it notes all the time.
And this is the thing, like, I think for me it's not even about trying to get the perfect routine, because actually that habit wasn't perfect, because what ended up happening, because I read so much, I ended up walking like Forrest Gump of walking. So I was actually
What
doing
did you do
about
the weekend? Walked?
Yeah, so I would, like on a Saturday, I would walk 6 hours on my own, and then I'd take my family out for a walk. So I was doing 60,000 steps Saturday, 60,000 steps Sunday, and then about 20,000 steps Monday to Friday, because I read so much. And then it became even bigger than that. If I was reading a email for a client, if I'm reading legislation or a case, I would walk around the office and read that, because I wasn't allowed to read unless I walk at the same time. What did happen though is I lost about 25 kilos in 9 months, which was great. But then what I realized was that wasn't the healthiest thing either, because the excessive walking ended up meaning not just having to buy new shoes every 2 months, which is what I had to do, but it also meant that I lost too much weight and started losing a lot of muscle and got a lot weaker at the gym. So then you make those 1% improvements. So then as I started to see what the outcome was, what the result was, I started to tweak it and improve it. But I know personally that when I have a habit, I stick to it religiously. So creating good habits.
Amar does not have a problem with motivation.
Yeah.
Motivation's not a problem, and that's part of what I enjoyed in the book, is that it says motivation is overrated, but it's the environment that you set up for the habit. And so if you can set up an environment that's conducive to you achieving the habit, you're more likely to do it. So.
Yeah, I love that a lot, but also that your habits are a reflection of your identity, not the other way around. So I really liked that if I can think about the kind of person or the goals I have or my purpose every day, what I'm doing at work, what I'm doing in my own life, then my habits should flow from that rather than the other way around. So that motivates me, because I struggle with motivation. If there is bad food in the house, I'm eating it. So I've got to change my identity and what I want in my life to improve my habits.
So do you buy individually packed Tim Tams?
I just don't buy Tim Tams now, but I do buy a box of paddle pops, because you get one serve. I'm not eating a whole tub of ice cream, just one serve. But little habits like that and little changes and tweaks make all the improvements.
And it is interesting how you do something and it actually gives you a structure to rethink it and rethink what you're doing. And being the apps girl, I adopted an app called Habit Now, which is just a simple gamification of habits. You list what you want to do, you check them off every day, and one of my habits is to add a new habit every day. So I'm kind of building out the structure of the perfect day, 15 seconds at a time. So this, I think, is a really powerful statement. Every action that you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. So I'm going to ask you, do you have any daily habits that you think others would benefit from adopting? Now, I'm going to start with that one. So do you have any habits that others would benefit from adopting? I also recently read the Circadian Rhythm book, And one of the things is after, as you go into the evening, you shouldn't look at blue light because blue light stirs you up and makes you more alert. So in my own home, I have blue tack covering all the blue light. And as you walk towards the bedroom, blue tack covers all the blue light. And the hotel room I was in last night had brilliant blue light that I couldn't turn off at all. And I had this sort of infrastructure trying to cover the blue light in the bedroom. But that's kind of a tiny little habit, has a massive impact on your sleep.
I think one habit that is really easy to implement that I do is before I go into a meeting with a client, answer a phone call, I would spend a minute just smiling. I think when you do that, subconsciously your whole body demeanor, the way you speak, the way you engage becomes a lot more positive. So before I try not to jump into a meeting rushed from a task that I was doing before, because then the way I represent myself in that meeting could be stressed and anxious. So changing that by before going in, just smiling makes a big difference.
So when I knew I was going to do this panel, I started really thinking about the habits that I do, trying to figure out how they're leading to a better day. And one thing I've been trying to do a lot was mindfulness and breathing exercises for 10 minutes every morning. But someone once told me recently that how you go to sleep is how you wake up in the morning. So if you go to bed stressed, you're going to wake up stressed. If you go to bed with your mind busy, thinking about all these things, you're going to wake up that way. And really, you're starting on the back foot from the moment you wake up. So I've just moved it from in the morning to before I go to bed. And so before I go to sleep, I'm relaxed, I'm feeling calm and happy. And then when I wake up, that's how I feel. It was just a small little tweak, really benefited me.
So I'm what James Clear calls proactively lazy. I know that I can do lots of other things, but before I go to bed every night, I completely reset my house. I put the pillows where they need to go. I put the remotes where they need to belong. I put all the dishes in the dishwasher so that when I wake up in the morning, I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about cleaning anything. It's all put away already. My husband just thinks I'm crazy and I'm OCD, and yes, I am. But no, I'm proactively lazy, so I do the same with clients. I say, why would I want to go back to something 4 times? Do it once, do it now, move on.
Awesome. And I do that as well, if I'm not in bed too early. So I'd like to explore some of the sort of mind-blowing moments of the book. Habits reduce cognitive load and free up mental capacity. By making the fundamentals of life easier, you can create mental space needed for free thinking and creativity. How does that help you achieve your goals?
So I think this probably, for me, I'm not sure if you guys have read Getting Things Done by Jim. Was it Getting Things Done by Jim Collins? I believe. No, David Allen, which is another really, really good book. So for me, as Carl would know as well, I write down everything. Everything gets written down. Any thoughts, any ideas, any to-dos, any actions, any discussions, could be even with friends. Because what that does is it's captured. It's captured in my notes app. I know that I don't have to think about it. So that frees my mindset to focus on what I need to be focused on at that moment. Otherwise, subconsciously, the mind retains it and it actually stresses that you're going to forget that. So by writing it down, subconsciously my mind is free because everything is captured. So that's one thing that helps me a lot, is knowing that I've got it captured.
Can you share with them the app that you told me about that does that for you?
Yeah, so I use, if I'm on the go, so if I'm going on my long walks, then I use the Drafts app because what that does is connects with my watch as well as my phone, and you just talk to it. So you click on the Drafts app, you talk to it, it converts it to text, it then sits in my Drafts app. If it's during a meeting or I'm sitting down, then I use the native Notes app on my phone, because then that syncs across all my devices and I've got it structured so that I can then go back to it and categorize it. So what I do is that's my capture tool. Then I go back through all my notes and then organize them. What needs to go into Carbon goes into Carbon. What goes into Reminders goes into Reminders. So then there's a process. And I actually review that every week. So every week I go through all of my notes and then organize them to where they need to go. And I do that each Sunday. So there's a really good process for me that works. So that's one tip I would do is if you want to free up your mind, write everything down. You'll be more present with your thoughts.
So the message here is don't take notes, befriend Amar.
Well, I've even for yesterday's session, I took about 15 pages of notes just from the sessions that we had yesterday.
So my whole life is about eliminating friction points so that I can achieve more with less effort. And it looks like I'm doing a lot of work, but I just make sure that I have everything planned so I can do that. I do the same thing with my clients. So I teach them that if you take a photo, that means there's no more friction points in providing something to me. They take the photo, it goes into the Dext app, it goes in the accounting system, I deal with it, they can throw it away, their car doesn't get messy, their wife isn't get upset. So it's just about changing those friction points and making it all so that it's achievable so that you can actually do it.
I do have an answer for this, but Amar, I just realized something you said earlier, that you go on these 6 hours walks, you used to, and then you realized that you were weaker when you went to the gym. You were still going to the gym after doing 6 hour walks?
Yeah, I was still going. And not only that, because, and again, I need to get better at that because once I have a habit, I tend to go to the extreme. I can't find the balance. So I also, at the same time, said I didn't like the way I was eating. So instead of saying I'm going to order a salad for lunch instead of having Chinese, I stopped eating. So I just said, right, I'm not having lunch, and I don't have breakfast. I'm not having lunch. So I was walking 60,000 steps, not having lunch, and going to the gym.
So that's like the opposite end of the spectrum, like too far of habits. Too far.
And that's where habits actually help me. By having good habits, it helps me find that balance because everything is scheduled. So once I have habit after habit after habit, it gives me balance in my life as well.
I think that sort of leads into my answer to this question, which is, for me, it's just, like everyone, you have anxious days, you get stressed, your mind's running around a million things. It's just getting it out of your head. But instead of writing a million notes, which sounds really good, I should start doing more of that. It's just more about making sure that I've scheduled and planned ahead so I know that there's a time for me to worry about that thing. It's setting aside a time where it's like, I don't need to think about this because I'm doing this at this point instead. So it's just out of my mind, I'm not worrying about it, going about my day on a walk. And I know when I get home and I sit down and eat breakfast, my habit is to look at my emails then. And I go through my things then. So it's like, don't worry about it. You will worry about it then.
I might just say, when you do plan your habits, so the good behaviors, habits are systems, they're processes. It's how you want to live your life with intention. So when you plan your habits for the day, you're effectively setting what's important for you, because the habits isn't just work habits. It could be habits that you do with your kids, habits that you do with your spouse, habits that you do with your family. So we all have these different roles that we play. So habits set how we prioritize, how we spend our time. It becomes a lot easier when they're scheduled for you to say no to things that then would mean you can't implement that habit. So you get more control of your life once you've set your routine. And you say no to things that don't align to your priorities. Where if I've got no habits and someone says, let's do this right now, it's like, okay, because I don't have a strategy on what my day should look like.
First thing he always says to me is, what's the plan? Can we walk? Let's go. So I think for Dan is that because I listen to Two Drunk Accountants podcast religiously, and I might have an episode on it as well on going paperless, just shameless plug. So So tell me about your new morning routine.
Thank you for asking. So pretty much because of this panel, as I said before, I've been rehashing that morning routine. And the funny thing is, I've realized, is it actually starts the night before. I'm learning more and more that it's all about that planning, that my habits for planning make the rest of my time better and make the rest of my habits more effective. So it all starts with washing the dishes. That's where my morning starts the night before. Coffee cup ready to go in the morning because I'm a terrible morning person. I wake up and if I have to wash a coffee cup, I'm not having coffee. Yeah, I'm too tired. But I get up, I have my coffee, go for a walk along the beach for 3Ks, come home, 10 minutes of mindfulness, cold shower, and it takes about an hour for the whole thing to happen. And then I'm like, good to go for the day, positive mental attitude, planned, ready to go. But I've been slowly building on that over time.
So yes, that's proactively lazy. You get 10 more minutes in the morning.
I have a post-it note in my shower to suggest I should have a cold shower, and I haven't had one yet. But I'd like you to all get in the habit of listening to the Two Drunk Accountants podcast. It is the Hamish and Andy podcast for the accounting industry. So I'll turn to Hamish for the next question.
Correct.
You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems.
Why was this directed at me, Heather?
So I could call you Hamish.
No, that's absolutely true. I think you achieve your goals just by having the habits that reflect your identity. It's kind of what Amar was saying before, where, if you have the habits set in your life and you're achieving those things and you're doing those routines every single day, they're going to build to the end result anyway. So you don't need to sit there thinking about, well, I want to achieve this, this, and this. It's, I need to do these little small tasks, and that builds to what I'm trying to achieve eventually. And that's the same in business as well. Small little business goals, each little action every single day builds to the result that you're trying to achieve. When we do business planning with clients, it's not about, we start with what's the big picture? What are you trying to achieve? What's the end goal? But we do that more just to give them a sense of direction and clarity. But then what they go away with is a lot of very small actions and targets. It's not about, all right, your plan is to double the size of your business, go do it. That doesn't work. They don't know how, they don't know what they're going to do. Every day you're going to be distracted by new things. But if it's every day you need to do these 3 things, and over time that builds to that result, well, that's a lot more effective than just setting lofty goals.
In the book, it's called the 2-minute rule. You can do anything for 2 minutes. If you do 2 minutes of a good thing, then the next day or the next month or the next year, you add 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, and you just make that 2 minutes so that you've won for 2 minutes a day, if that's all it is.
Absolutely, and I think the goals set the destination, right? So goals set where you want to end up, which is very important. Once you've set the goal, the habits actually determine how you get there. It's the process, it's the system. So there's no point setting a goal if you're not going to then talk about what's the process, the systems, and the habits that I need to be doing from today in order to hit those goals. And it's actually, once you've set those goals, it's more important then to focus on the habits, the systems, the process on a day-to-day basis than the goals, because that's what's going to get you to those goals. And it could be small little things. Like when it comes to systems, like I'll give you two small little things, and that's why it's atomic habits, because they're micro habits that you do repeatedly on a routine basis. So as an example, Facebook, social media. Facebook can be really, really good, or it could be a massive time waster. There's a lot of, we're part of a lot of Facebook groups as well. So what I do is I only jump onto Facebook on my iPad, and I've got it set up so that with the iPad you've got a split screen. So when I click on the Facebook app, it opens automatically with my Notes app. Subconsciously, the intention is there that I'm here to learn, which is what I use Facebook for. I go through all the different Facebook pages. There's a lot of information. I then can write things down. That trigger, just having the Notes app next to it, sets the intention that I'm here to learn. So just setting it up so that when your Facebook opens, it opens with your Notes app is really good. Also, when you turn off your phone, when you turn it on again, it opens with the last closed app. So what I do is before I close my phone, no matter what app I'm on, I open the iBooks app, which is what I use to read books. So as soon as I open my phone, it opens with iBooks. So then instead of going on Facebook or social media, I'm like, actually no, I'd rather keep continuing reading this book.
I do that as well. So I have my Chrome so that it opens all of my different tabs. And there's a lot. We're dealing with Dext and Ignition. We're dealing with Expert. We're dealing with Xero. We're dealing with everything. But I don't have it open Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, none of those. I have to physically go and do that. Otherwise, I will just see a shiny new toy and see something Nicole posted for the day and what day it is, and I won't proceed. And so I've lost 20 to 40 minutes of my day.
So for those of you who don't know, I've written 10 books, and when all the note-taking and the curation and the sorting and the surfacing of the information comes out of you, Amar, you'll all be able to go out and buy his book, because I'm sure it's in there one day, because I think are very much similar to that, in that I was just note-taking as a way of learning, and then everyone else needs to know this too. So pulling this back into the accounting and bookkeeping industry, as part of your consultation process, do you talk to your clients about the process of adopting habits, habit stacking, or following checklists?
Absolutely. So I think from our perspective, when we engage with our clients, when we do our advisory meetings with the clients, it's actually not just limited to financials. It's a relationship. So we work as mentors with them. We work in partnership with them. So we talk about everything. Sometimes we do talk about lifestyle. We do talk about habits. Sometimes we do talk about their relationships with their spouses. Sometimes we do talk about their own priorities, their vision, their purpose in life, if they're lacking some sense of meaning, or what is all this for. So I think when it comes to our relationships with our clients, we bring our full selves to that. And we don't have to have all the answers. We just come with our own unique experiences and expertise in whatever we know. And a lot of the times, to be honest, I tend to talk about, in my advisory meetings, the latest book that I've just read. So if I've read Getting Things Done by David Allen, I'll be talking about, right, how do we capture your thoughts? How do we organize your actions? If I'm reading Dare to Lead by Brené Brown, then I'm talking about being more vulnerable with your team, building a culture, being more honest. It tends to, whatever we start to learn day to day, or if Carla and I are talking about asynchronous communication, then I'd be talking about that with my clients as well.
I think building on that, research is showing more and more the connection between your own or the business owner's health, physical health, mental health, sleep, relationships, family, everything, and the success of that business. We all know if we're going through tough times, or if you're not feeling well, you're not going to be making decisions at your best. You're not going to be being as productive as you need to be. So really, a lot of the time, and our passion in our business is all about trying to bridge that gap between what people's lifestyles are trying to be and what their business can actually provide for them. So there is a little bit of a conversation around, well, what are you doing for yourself? And so in business plans, I've started including lifestyle KPIs. So it's like, yeah, here's all your business KPIs, but what else are you doing? What's important to you in your life to make sure you can achieve that and getting the balance that you're after? And it's going to be a measure of, are you doing well at that or not? The best one I've heard was surfs per week. So that was one of my favorite measures. So we do talk about those habits, as well as obviously the business habits around cash flow, the habits around trying to get those additional income in, or whatever it is that they're trying to achieve.
For me, as a BAS agent, and I work with a lot of tradies, my whole job is to eliminate friction points. So I make it as easy as possible for them to work with me. Of course, first thing is, you don't start the vehicle unless you've taken the photo of the receipt. And things like e-sign, so that getting them to e-sign means they don't have to print it out, they don't have to find a pen to sign it, they don't have to file it, they don't have to leave it in the truck and get it lost. It's done, filed, delivered. No paper, no fuss, no pen. Make it easy.
How amazing is that? Don't start the car until you've taken a photo for your receipt, okay? If that's the one thing you take away from Accountex, that's just transformational for some clients out there. And I have now a controversial question that some of the panel didn't want me to ask. So you don't have to answer it, but how many of you track the hours that you sleep? Awesome. I know that my husband wakes me every morning. Well, I wake him because I wake at 4, but when he wakes and tells me how many hours he sleeps, loves it. Every single day he tells me how many hours he sleeps. Even when I'm away, he texts me. because he's so proud if he gets a good night's sleep. So impactful, and it's so important.
See, that stresses me out. Seriously, Heather's the best roommate I've ever been away with because I get home and she's just waking up. It's perfect. But worrying about how many hours I sleep, I might go 2 and get up and go to the toilet, and go 2 and get up and go to the toilet, or, whatever. But it stresses me out. I can function on 2 hours or I can function on 10, but I really do not want to keep track of it.
This question's an outrage. No, I sometimes track it, sometimes not. I think you can go too far.
You were the one who loved the question. Yeah. You were fighting for the question.
I actually just want to know, how do you track your sleep? I'm assuming you track your sleep, yes?
I track everything.
That's what I assumed, yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
That's right, so, my friend.
Yeah.
And I think for me...
How many steps have you done today?
Oh, nothing, because I've just been here.
116, I checked the app.
I've done 1,849, so...
We share the steps on an app together and compete against each other. I gave up after.
Yeah, is it a competition? Yeah, I was just winning that.
But I think, so for me, it's all about 1% improvements, right? So those incremental improvements, continuous improvement. You can only really make those 1% improvements when you track it. Tracking is data, it's insights. It's the same reason why we prepare correct accounts, why we prepare financials. We want to use the data to give advice. So for
measuring
me,
is changing.
I capture data in my own life so that I could try to make those 1% improvements. So I do track my sleep. I also have an app called Waterminder. I track how much water I consume. And if I'm not drinking enough water, it pings me on my watch to say, drink more water.
See, my habit is that every time I get up from my desk or I change my desk from standing to sitting, I refill my water. I drink 8 liters of water a day. Religiously, which is great. But for me with habits, it's not about saying, I want to walk more, I want to lose weight. It's like, what do you picture yourself looking like if you do that habit, right? So, I visualize my office as being beautifully clean and tidy and organized, right? So that's what I do. I use those habits to make that happen. If I can't go to bed if there's things on my desk, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and forget my hours.
So I'm keen to bring some technology into the conversation because I do love my apps and I do love my technology. And I'm going to ask what are some habits that you or your clients track and how are the habits tracked? And I do think that when we unpack what the habit needs to be, it's very often the technology can actually adopt, absorb, and actually do it for us, and freeing us up completely. So, as an example, we were talking about the requirements that we have of clients to give us documentation. That can be built into the Ignition app engagement letter, and they are signing that they're agreeing to provide you that data or that information at a particular time. And you need to, if you do that, make sure the whole team is aware of that and encourage that. So it can be built in to the technology. So it's completely. I'm all about freeing up my mental clutter, so I can just think. So what else? What other thoughts do you have? What are some of the habits you're tracking with your clients, and how are you doing it?
So I'll go first. So I don't like to be a nag. It's just something I really don't. You used to do it with your kids. So now I don't go there with that. I love apps that nag for me. I use Expert because Expert tells me, right, it's Tuesday morning. I have 14 payrolls to do. Nobody has to remind me. I don't have to write it down. It just says, right, these are all the ones I have to do. Thursday morning, same thing. It tells me, right, this is what you have to do today. My staff are all allocated those tasks. I don't have to say, here's your day. It's all done by Expert already. And Dex reminds them if they haven't given me a receipt or if they haven't provided me an F+ receipt and an actual receipt.
Okay. So is it more for clients or for us?
Whatever. You can take it.
So for me, I use, and it could be basic systems. Like for me, it is an identity. So for me, it becomes almost like a game. As an example, my walking. So I've done 10,000 steps every single day for the past 2.5 years. If I don't do 10,000 steps today's going to be the first day in 2.5 years that I didn't do 10,000 steps. Today's not going to be that day. I've invested too much time on it. So I've
Note to Carla, book the hotel much further away when we go on exhibitions.
Also, say when it comes to the gym, I record it in Excel. So sometimes it's not a sophisticated system. I just record in Excel. If I don't go every day, there's going to be a gap in that Excel schedule. I don't like gaps. So I now go. I went from never going to the gym to going 6 to 7 days a week. And that's because of the way the Excel that I've set it up on the schedule, there's going to be a gap. So just by using systems like that, it helps create that incentive to keep going. And that's how I do it.
Yeah, I think building on that, it needs to be easy. And if sometimes you can go too far with tracking too much, and if you've got to go find the stats, you're never going to look. It's adding friction to the habit then. So just as easy as possible. I have a watch. It tracks a lot of my lifestyle stuff already. I don't need an app to track surfs per week. Did I do it or not? But when it comes to work habits, then yeah, it's all about the habits. We work with cash flow systems with a lot of our clients, and there's no tracker for that apart from literally every fortnight we meet and we do a thing. We do transfers. We go through it with them. And that becomes a habit that just builds to their results. So it's less about having to track it, every single little thing, and more about just did you do the habit or did you not do the habit?
And some of the reporting systems auto-build and email the client the actual report or the reminder to go in and look at the dashboard.
And a note to developers, I want to know when I do something great. I don't want to know when I've been really slack. I want to know any changes, positive. I don't want to know that I've missed 4 days.
So at New Year's Eve, it's really easy to define habits and stick to them while we're on the holidays. But how do we stick to them through the hustle and bustle and challenges? How did you stick to them today when you came to a conference?
So there's a running joke in my friendship group for years that once a year I call myself New Dan. New Dan starts today, everybody. And yeah, exactly, multiple times a year. But recently, my habits have stuck. And I think it's because you bring it all back down to that identity piece and who you're trying to be and your habits being a reflection of that rather than trying to change who you are through forcing yourself to do something. So really, I like getting up early and going for a walk. It makes me feel good. I like being the person that is an early bird. So therefore, I'm just going to get up because that's who I am now. Apparently, I'm New Dan. So yeah, it's less about... It's just more about trying to reflect who you are rather than forcing yourself to do something that doesn't feel right.
So I still have a glass blackboard in my office, and every year I write a new word on it. Last year my word was to live, because I just felt like we were in limbo for so long. We needed to live. This year my word is focus. So rather than trying to do 1,000 things, I pick a few things that I want to focus on and I stick to those. That's an achievable habit for me. I can focus. It might be focusing on Pokemon, but it might be focused on something else, but I'm focusing.
So for me, I think it's less so on New Year's resolution. It's a case of reviewing my lifestyle. So I'm always looking at improving. So I always review my habits, my lifestyle. So I totally agree with Dan. Habits are a reflection of your identity. So each habit should be a vote of the sort of person you want to be. Not necessarily where you are currently, where you want to be. So do my daily habits, do my daily practices reflect who I want to be? So if I look up to someone and someone that I admire, and what are their habits? So as an example, if I want to write a book, rather than setting a goal that I want to sign a book deal so that I could publish this book by end of this year, I would set the habit of I want to write 1 page every day. I focus on the daily practice, the lifestyle. My identity is then as a writer. So I focus on my identity. As a writer, I will write 1 page every day.
Is Amar's everyone's hero or just mine? I feel like...
Amar is amazing.
And there's a reason his letter starts with A.
Yeah, definitely. We are coming towards the end of this session, but this is a community session. If you've got any questions or heckles or anything you'd like to contribute, I can run over there with a microphone, or you can run up here, or I can repeat it. Who's that? Are they going? Are you worried, Hamish?
Hi, just the Hamish of the Two Drunk Accountants here. Actually, apparently Andy. I don't know if that's a compliment or a stab. But I just wanted to say, I think Amar, he's like, the book talks about an ice cube, and you are the melted ice cube. Which is a compliment.
I'll take it.
Because as the ice cube is melting, at -18, an ice cube is frozen. At -10, there's been a lot of change happen. The ice cube is still frozen. At -1 degrees, it is still frozen, but it's changed 17 degrees. You have to commit to the change, and that's Amar. He's the melted ice cube because he committed through to when it got to 0 degrees and it started melting, and the change was embodied in him. So, yeah, well done, mate. It's awesome.
That's why Tim's the Andy of the podcast and not the Hamish.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Amar, this is for you. Please tell us that you have some bad habits.
Before COVID, he didn't drink. Do you know that before COVID, he didn't drink? After meeting all of us, he drinks.
That's right.
Well, and so that's a good point. So again, it comes to, I'm not going to say I'm an extreme drinker, but I went on, when I was, I think, 23, I went on a top deck tour around Europe, and I drank way too much. So I've got a twin brother. On the plane ride back home from Europe, we both made the agreement that we're not going to drink anymore. So we didn't drink. My brother lasted 2 months. I lasted 15 years. So I didn't drink because I said, I'm not going to drink. And that's the way my mind works. When I say I'm not going to do this, it just doesn't do it. Or if I say I'm going to do this, I'm gonna do it. So there was no other reason then. I just said I'm not going to do it. Then I partnered with Carla and started drinking, and it all went downhill from there.
He was with us.
But in terms of, I think my bad habits are more so that I can't moderate the habit. That when I have a habit, I take it to the extreme. But I did have. In a previous firm that I worked with, in order to connect, they played this game on the phone, and on that phone there was a lot of chat. And I found because I tend to be quite competitive, I became competitive on that game. So this is going back maybe five years ago. When I review my habits, I realised that whilst the social element was good in keeping touch with my ex-colleagues, I was spending too much time on that app, and it wasn't productive. So I deleted the app. So I always review my habits, and I eliminate what doesn't add value to my life and doesn't align with where I find I can be the most productive. And then I try to replace that with a better habit.
And I know it sounds like Amar is a total workaholic, but he's actually not. Yeah, walkaholic, yes, but workaholic, no. He's so generous with his time. He actually schedules this time in with his work colleagues and his networking friends and his community group first and works around that. And that just shows, his bad habits are good habits too.
Amar missed going to the gym once. He's horrible.
Let's get the weights out.
That will be the T-shirt next conference. So if anyone else does have a query, just sort of wave your hand and we'll come over with it. Oh, we do. Okay.
Nice.
Thank you. Mark from Own Your Mark. Hi, Michele. Look, really interesting discussion, guys. Thank you. And I kind of see a line in the sand between habitual and habitual tracking, and I'm interested in the panelists' view on how much you see tracking. So when I say that, I mean habitual being the habit of when I get up from my desk, I have a drink of water. Before I start the vehicle, I take a photo, versus tracking things to ensure I'm doing it. So how much do you see tracking as a carrot versus a stick? So how much is the tracking to say, yeah, I'm doing a good job versus I'm not doing a good job and I need to enforce this?
I think that really depends on who you're asking, because it is definitely is different. For me, I do the habits religiously and don't even realize that I'm doing it, but I don't track that. Whereas Amar is going to track that, right? So it just depends on the person. But I do the habit, but don't know how many times.
I think for me, as an accountant, I love numbers. I love tracking. I love seeing things. Not as much as Amar, apparently, but I think it really is about when you measure it, you change it. I said that before, but that's how you start it. That's how I think in my mind, all right, I want to do 10,000 steps a day, so I'm going to start measuring that. But once it becomes a habit, I don't need to measure it anymore because I'm just doing it. So as long as I've used it to start the habit, and then once it's ingrained in me, then I don't need to track it in my mind anymore.
Everything gets tracked. Everything. Every time gets tracked.
This has been such a fabulous discussion. Thank you so much to the audience. Thank you so much to our panellists. Oh, no, they've not finished yet. They're not finished yet. So I would like you to, all that clapping, take it on board, but I'd like you to share with everyone who's here today one key takeaway that you think they should take away with them, and how can they get in contact with you. And I really encourage you all to connect with these people on LinkedIn. We'll put a post up straight away afterwards, continue the conversation, continue asking questions. But what's one key takeaway from today?
I would say when you're trying to implement a new habit, make it 2 minutes. Just start with starting the habit by doing it for 2 minutes. So if you want to start walking, walk 2,000 steps a day. Walk 1,000 steps. Go for a walk for 10 minutes a day. Sorry, for me, 2,000 is nothing. But so say go for a walk for 10 minutes every day. Instead of saying I'm going to walk for an hour and a half every day, I'm going to walk 10 minutes every day. So just make it simple. And I think sometimes we get into analysis paralysis. So before I start going to the gym, I'm going to look at what protein shake and which is the best brand and which personal trainer should I go to, and I'm going to look at every workout session on YouTube, and by that stage it's been 2 years' time and you haven't entered the gym. So just, if I'm going to say I'm going to start going to the gym, then just turn up at the gym and just do whatever you can. I mean, Carla, I was telling Carla the other day, when I started going to the gym, I've actually had no idea what I was doing. So I injured myself a lot. I would watch other people do it, and then I would be like, okay, so you lift this and it goes up, something. But just start. So make it easy, start, make it 2 minutes, and then every day improve it by 1%. And then that's the compounding effect of Atomic Habits.
Make the habits you want to do achievable and make the bad habits impossible. So if you want to go for a walk, put your running shoes beside the bed or at the front door before you go to bed, right? If you want to get up earlier, get everything ready the night before. The bad habits, buy the Tim Tams in the individual packets so that you don't eat the whole thing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's adding friction to the bad habits and start with the easiest habits to change first. That's, being lazy again, and ensuring that you're just doing the one that's easiest to change first, and then you build a momentum and add little habits every single time.
I didn't mention, but my habit tracker has all the vitamins that I'm supposed to take for various reasons, and I've been taking them really well for like the last 3 months, and I now have the strongest nails in my life. So that was thank you to D3, and that has been quite amazing. But now, thank you very much to my panel, my amazing panel, for this fabulous discussion. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us today. Thank you to GoCardless Buzz Labs for hosting us today. We really appreciate it. It's been so much fun. Continue the conversation. We're here for you, okay?
What a fabulous discussion. To ensure that you keep up to date with the Cloud Stories podcast, please hit subscribe right now and jump over and subscribe to the Accounting Apps newsletter, which you can find at heathersmithau.com. Many thanks to the GoCardless team and the Sydney Accountex team who enabled that panel discussion to happen.